Hi everyone! So thank you so much for tuning in to watch this quick and easy fun tutorial for a quilt. I'm going to walk you through all of the steps. It is going to be so easy to make because it just revolves around two blocks that are pretty simple to put together. So I'm calling this quilt the Time Traveler quilt because I'm using an hourglass block and as one of the blocks, and I'm using the Stonehenge fabric that I got from the So Yeah channel on YouTube. If you haven't watched them, go watch them on Tuesday and Saturday night and grab you some good deals on some fabric. So with all that said, I'm going to show you the two blocks that I'm going to be showing you how to put together in this video. So first of all, I did put together a few using different types of fabric just so you can get an idea of what you might like, but I'm going to show you first the hourglass block using the Stonehenge fabric because this is what I'm making the full quilt out of. So there is that block. Isn't this fabric just amazing? So that is one of the blocks, and the other is a diamond block, and that is the Stonehenge fabric as well. And if you see, I put together some jelly roll strips to make the inner diamond, and I think that's a fun way to make it, and it's a good way to use up some jelly rolls if you have some on hand, if you don't have yardage you really want to use. So I'm going to show you a few other blocks that I put together with different types of fabric. So here is another diamond block, and you can see I used a lot of florals. And then here is another hourglass block. And here is another diamond block. This one I put together using jelly roll strips. Isn't that green just amazing? And here is another hourglass block. So there is a ton of options you could do putting these together. I'll put a few photos up on the side here showing these blocks kind of laid out together so you can see how they would look. But otherwise, we're just going to jump in and start putting these blocks together. I'll show you how to do it, the measurements I use, and everything like that. I'm also going to link my blog because I will include photos there of the steps if it's easier for you to work through a quilt looking at something written. So that'll be there as well. My channel is filled with a lot of sewing tutorials, not just quilts, bags as well. So if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell because I do upload weekly, and I also do some unboxings for quilt boxes, fabric hauls, bag hardware hauls, like a lot of stuff. So if any of that interests you, go ahead and subscribe. If you are already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting me. So let's jump into the tutorial for this quilt. Okay, so to make this Time Traveler quilt, it's going to be made up of two different blocks. So you're going to need the fabric to make the two different blocks. One block is an hourglass block, and so you need two different fabrics. It will work best if they're kind of contrasting, either a dark and a light, or one that has a lot of patterns and one that maybe is solid, just something that will stand out as being two different types of fabric. And then you're going to have your diamond block, and that is going to be made up of a background piece. So I'm going to use this that has a lot of whites and grays. And this is all from the Stonehenge collection. And then I'm going to use 3 different fabrics that I think look nice together because these are going to get cut down into jelly roll strips. So you could use yardage like I am, or you could use a jelly roll. I'm going to use this because I think it'll look really nice with the ombre effect, how throughout the quilt they will change a little bit. So I'm going to use these 3 fabrics. You're going to probably want to use at least 3 fabrics to make it look really nice, so that they're not all this, you know, the same, from the same fabric color. But a jelly roll, like I said, would work. So you'd want at least probably 6 different fabrics to make this quilt. So I'm going to set that to the side. Another thing that will really help you, aside from just basic sewing supplies like a rotary cutter and some rulers, and you know, your sewing machine, thread, stuff like that, is this Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer. I know I have shown this before. I love this trimmer for half square triangles. We're going to be making half square triangles, and this really helps cutting those down. So I'm gonna iron my fabric, and then we'll start getting into the cutting sizes and cutting the fabric. Okay, so now that we have our strips, 3 strips sewn together lengthwise, we're going to, and we have them pressed. So now we're going to cut them down into 6-inch squares. So I'm just going to show you, I'm going to cut some to show you what we're going to be doing next with these, and just to kind of give you an idea of how you may want to pair them up, how many you may want to cut, and things like that. So I'm going to cut out 4 of these. We're going to need, for a quilt with 20 squares, and remember 10 of them are going to be these diamonds, and then 10 of them are going to be the hourglass. So we're going to need, to make 1 block, we're going to need 2 of these squares. And so what I'm going to do, since my fabric was like had an ombre effect. Some of it's light, medium, dark. I'm going to be pairing up, you know, if I have some darker squares with strips, I'm going to be pairing those up with some lighter ones. Okay, so then when I start getting maybe more here, I could do, you know, that still contrasts nicely. So that's what I'm going to do to get my blocks. I'm going to make sure that I'm pairing them up with colors that go well with it. And I don't have to do, you know, the color difference is enough where I could just do lights together and darks together, because you see, even if I put the lights, there's still enough contrast there. But, you know, it just depends on the look that you want. I could put the darks with it, and that would look great as well. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. I'm going to be cutting all my strips down, and to make 10 of these diamond blocks, I need 2 of these sets to be able to do that. So I'm going to be cutting, making sure I have 20 to make all the blocks that I want. So I'm just going to keep cutting these strips down and pairing them up to make sure I have enough to go around. Okay, so now that we have all of our squares paired together, we're going to mark corner to corner on all of our background squares. So if you prefer doing your half square triangles a different way, like using some tape on your machine, or like the DuckDuckGo tape or anything like that, just do it the way you're more comfortable. I like to draw the lines. I know it can take longer and all that, but this is just the way that I'm more comfortable. So however you prefer doing half square triangles, just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to mark corner to corner on all of my background squares. And then when I go to the machine, I'm going to sew 1/4 inch along each side of the marked line, then cut down the marked line, and then I'll use my clearly slotted trimmer to trim at the 5.5 mark on the slotted trimmer. Then we'll press them open. So these are come together pretty quickly, I think. So like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and mark down the center of all of mine and then sew 1/4 inch along each side of the marked line. If you have a preferred method, go ahead and use that. Okay, so after you have your half square triangles cut in half and trimmed down and pressed open, you can start planning out how your diamond blocks will look. And that's just going to be personal preference. I tried to keep similar tones together on the background and in the center, just so it looks a little more unified, but you could make it crazy, you can make it wild, do it however you wanted to. So once you have all your blocks planned out, you're going to stitch along here and here, and then you'll press them open and stitch them together across here using 1/4 inch seams. So the block, like I said, comes together really quickly. so now we are on to making the hourglass block. So we're going to be bringing two contrasting squares together, and then we are going to sew along opposite ends. So we're going to sew here and here, and then we're going to cut in half corner to corner. You will be cutting through some of the threads you sewed. That is okay. After you do that, you're going to fold it open, and you're going to have two triangles that we are going to turn and sew together. So you'll see that as I work, but it's a quick way to make this hourglass block. So I'm going to put right sides together, and then we're going to go sew opposite edges. So what did you guys think? Did it come together pretty quickly? So I have all the blocks sewn together that I'm going to use in my quilt, and I was able to sew all the blocks together in one day. I haven't pieced it all together yet because I'm not sure on layout, but I do want to show you how you would want to lay out your blocks if you want a similar look to this. So as you can see, I'm alternating the diamond blocks with the hourglass blocks. And what I did was I made sure, so you can see this teal color here and this darker blue with the yellow golds here. So the first row I'm doing a diamond block, and I'm leaving the ones that are heavily in teal facing horizontal. And then on the next row, you're going to turn them so that the teal ones are facing vertical. And that will get you this lovely design of, you know, different squares through here, all these different patterns that you can get to show up. And it's really makes the quilt, one, look a lot more complicated than it is. And it also, you know, gives you different designs to look at and wonder how they all showed up there, how everything works. It's really a lot of fun. So that is how I did the layout for my quilt. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments with anything, not just layout, with measurements, anything like that. Feel free to ask me in the comments. And if you want to see this quilt completely finished after I do all the quilting and binding, be sure to subscribe to my blog because I will show it in photos on there. So with that said, this quilt was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I will also give the measurements after I piece it together on my blog post. So if you do want to see the measurements and everything like that, be sure to follow it. And if I put a border on, I will let you know the sizings on that in my blog. The blocks did finish at 10¼ inches. So keep that in mind for sizing for your quilt, because you can always add more blocks and make it as big as you want. So I had a lot of fun putting this together. If you have any questions, again, ask me in the comments. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, and go ahead and give this video a like if you find it helpful. I'd love to know if you're going to make this quilt, and if you do, let me know what fabrics you use. I'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. I appreciate you supporting my channel. Till next time, bye.